Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist and I own 54 units of real estate. So today I want to talk about the reality of owning 54 units in 2025. This is kind of my 10K special. So thank you all for supporting the channel and thank you all for um, helping me get to 10K. Never thought I would get here. But let's dive into it. So the reality of basically owning 54 units in 2025. So for me, I want to kind of go through my whole portfolio one by one and kind of show you the status of each one and how each of them are doing. So the first property I bought in 2017 was a house hack. I lived in it initially, and then I basically rented out three other bedrooms. And after I moved out of that house hack, I rented out as a long-term rental. And it's been rented out to the same tenant since 2019, which is when I moved out of the property. So I've had the same tenant there for 6 years now. This property I bought for 800. It appreciated to about $1.4 million today, roughly. And the tenant's been great. They pay on time. They take care of the property. If there's an issue, they usually escalate to me, and I usually respond pretty fast and timely. So it's been a pretty nice collaborative relationship with that tenant, and haven't had any turnover in that property, which has been amazing. So that one, it breaks even in cash flow. It didn't when I first had the property, it was cash flow negative, if I'm being honest, because I was self-managing the property. I think I was only getting like $3,700 a month in rent when I first got the property, and now it rents for $4,100. But despite that, $4,100 in rent, it breaks even despite self-management. And if I have any capex issues, any repairs, whatever little cash flow I do make covers that. So I just call it a break-even property for simplicity. So for me, that's the best you can get in California is a break-even property. So this one, like I said, no vacancy, so it's been great. So can't really complain. For my second property, um, for the second property, what is it? For the second property, it's like a duplex that I bought in San Francisco. And once again, I put 10% down. I house hacked that property. And in that property, I lived in the master bedroom upstairs. I had two other bedrooms in the upper unit, which I rented out. And the bottom unit was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, separate entrance. I rented out to 4 college students. And when I moved out of that property, I rented out that property to a Section 8 tenant. And they've been there since I moved out in 2020. So it's been nice. And I think I raised rents on that from one time, I believe. And the lower unit, that one has more turnover. That's why I don't like up and down duplexes, because typically the bottom unit tenant has more turnover because it's not as desirable to have someone living above you versus like side to side. So like if I were to buy duplexes now, I would buy one that's side to side, not up and down. Because when there's up and down, the tenant upstairs walks loudly. And what was it? If I want to basically, the tenant upstairs is noisy, that would basically be annoying if I live downstairs, right? So that's kind of why up and down is not great. And if you have a plumbing leak upstairs, it basically does leak downstairs. So that's not ideal, right? That's definitely not ideal. But like I said, today it's the same tenant in the upper unit, Section 8. And the downstairs tenant, that one has more turnover. The average is about 1.5 to 2 years. My current tenant's been there for about 2 years now, so it's been a bit better. But like I said, if you can avoid an up and down duplex, avoid it. Side to side is much better, right? Because you get more conflict and all that if it's up and down. So, it's a makeshift duplex in San Francisco. Bought this property for $1.1 million, and it's probably worth about, $1.5 million, give and take right now. So this property, I think this one cash flows decently. It cash flows about $1,000 a month. Upstairs tenant, I get $5,100 in rent. Downstairs tenant is $2,900, so $8,000 total. But since it's a makeshift duplex, I do cover utilities. So I cover the electric, gas, water, trash. So it's quite expensive. but I think this one does cash flow around 800 to 1,000 bucks a month, unless I have a repair that month. So this one actually does cash flow decently. And let's see, my third property that I got is in Orange County. So when I relocated to Southern California, um, I own Orange County, and it's been the same tenant as well. So I had the intent of moving into this property. Um, and then, oh, I see some intense comments over here that I see. I'll respond to them later, but let me finish my story. I know you're excited. Um, so I have one in Orange County. The intent was for me to move into it and basically live in the main house and build an ADU in the backyard, right? And in the backyard, I decided not to build the ADU because you have to fund the money for ADUs up front. I didn't have the cash at the time, and I didn't want to do a line of credit and all that because my property doesn't have equity yet. So, I decided not to build the ADU and decided not to move into that property because I ironically got laid off from my pharmacist job. Um, so for me, I was like, well, if I got laid off, I don't know where my next job is going to be. So like, I don't want to build an ADU there. I don't want to live in this property. So what I ended up doing is I rented out that property to the same tenant that I have today for the past 5 years. And it was cash flow negative to start, but over time I raised rents gradually over time. And now I'm kind of breaking even, maybe making $200, $300 a month on that. And, but now, as you saw my most recent videos, I'm starting to build ADUs. Or planning on building ADUs in that same unit. So I want to build a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in the backyard, and then I want to convert the garage to a 1-bedroom unit. And I'm planning on funding that through cash/lines of credits, and then whatever cash flow I'm making. Because when you have ADUs, so this is what's crazy with ADUs, right? So it's going to cost me, let's say, $400,000 for easy math to build a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,000 square foot in the backyard, and to convert the garage to a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, 450 square foot apartment. And a 1-bedroom in Orange County, believe it or not, rents for $2,500, and a 3-bedroom, 2-bath rents for about $3,700. So what's that? $1,600 a month in cash flow. And if, let's just say, I pay half cash, half line of credit, my line of credit is $200,000 at 8% interest. Can't do the math off the top of my head, but let's just make it easy for me and say it's $1,800. You're gonna have a decent amount of cash flow because my line of credit is $1,800. Let's just make it $2,000, easy math. And my rental income is $6,200. I'm gonna cash flow $4,200 a month. I can use that $4,200 extra to pay down that line of credit. Once that line of credit is paid off, you have pure $6,200 a month in cash flow. So like the ADUs didn't make sense for me like in 2020. But what's nice about owning the lot is that at any time that you want, you could decide to build the ADU because you have the land there, as long as the law doesn't go away. And I don't think the law is going away. So, it's really like options, right? Like that's what I love about real estate. It just gives you options to do that. So like, it didn't make sense for me 5 years ago, but maybe fast forward today, it's starting to make sense. So I'm probably going to do that middle of 2026 is probably kind of my plan and my goal. So we'll see. I'll keep you guys posted. Like obviously, if I do build ADUs in this property, I live nearby this one, so I can actually film content at this property, right? Like most of my properties I can't film content at because it's in Oklahoma and Alabama, I'm in California, or they're up in the Bay Area, or they're occupied. So I can't really film content in them. So for this one, I do want to document the process of me building the ADU. And I'm still deciding on who to go with. I have 3 quotes. I have a feeling of who I'm going to use. I'll let you guys know once I decide. But right now, I do have a strong contender that I met with probably about 3 weeks ago before I went on vacation. But I'll keep you guys posted on who I use because obviously, I do want to partner with them. And if they build me a great ADU product, obviously I do want to partner with them, and maybe I'll buy more real estate with lots that I can build ADUs in, right? If I get more cash flow. So that property, like I said, high level, same tenant, started off negative cash flow, now cash flow positive a little bit. And I'm planning on building the ADUs, and the tenant, it's okay with me building the ADUs. Because when they signed the lease, I told them, hey, I'm probably going to build an ADU in the backyard. I don't know when. So they knew up front that was baked into the lease. And then um, basically for the garage, that was the conversation I need to have with them to say, hey, like, are you guys using the garage? Um, if yes or no, we can negotiate something. Maybe we can drop your rents. Maybe we can whatever, give some type of concession. So they were okay with that, and most likely the agreement would be like probably lowering the rents a little bit because they lose their garage, but then it'll make up for it in the fact that I can rent it out um, to them, to another tenant. And obviously, the downside of ADUs is, you don't have as much privacy compared to a single family home. Like someone is living in what used to be your garage, and you have someone in the backyard. But when I did tour a property where it was kind of like a triplex where the garage was converted and they had a backyard house and it felt very private. They structured the windows in a way where you don't see the other buildings, and they structured the lighting in a way like skylights to make it feel very bright. And they made the backyard ADU kind of like a bit taller so that the ceilings were pitched. So it felt like you weren't cramped in a box, if that makes sense. So it was nice in that sense. So I was really impressed with that. So probably going to move forward with that and see. But knowing that there's a risk of, it'll attract a different tenant pool in the future, but that's the risk that, I'm willing to take. So those are the ones I have in California. So moving on to Oklahoma, I have a 26 unit apartment complex, which I bought using direct mail. And I have multiple videos talking about it, but I sent out direct mail. And I bought from this guy who wanted to retire. He was a lawyer, self-managed a property himself. He did his own property management. He did his own renovations. He did his own pest control. He was kind of an older guy. He was 67, very handy, obviously. And he used the one unit as his office for his law firm. So I think he bought this for tax purposes. But what was nice was I negotiated off market, no brokers involved. Got for $500,000, believe it or not. It appraised at $750K day one. So, got instant equity in the deal. And basically, I spent $3,000 to renovate the whole property. So I renovated most of the 26 units, got a new roof, repainted the exterior. It was roughly about $300,000. And I was able to, I think the rents when I got the property were averaging around 350, 350 per door, believe it or not. Yes. And, sorry, it was 500, but include utilities. Sorry, I'm obviously scatterbrain stuff from being jet lagged. But the prior landlord was charging $500, but it included all bills, which means it include water, include electricity, include gas. And that averaged to be about 150 per unit. So my effective net rent in my pocket was 350. So what I do is after I renovate each unit, which was about 10 to 15K renovation, so brand new kitchen, brand new flooring, brand new ceilings, brand new bathroom, fresh coat of paint, new fixtures, like everything was brand new. I was able to get the market rent, which was around 700 to 750, and they also had to cover their own utilities. So effectively, I was able to double the rents. I know it makes me sound like an evil landlord when I say double the rents, but basically just raise the rents from way below market. After renovation, I raised it to market, and it's really basically able to double your rents, you double your NOI, technically double your value, right? Assuming that the value is based on net operating income divided by the market cap rate, assuming your cap rate doesn't drop down. So it's really the strategy that I did. And the 26 unit, so I've owned it since 2021 to 2026. So I've owned it for about 5 years now. The first 3 years, let's just call it, I was focused on renovating it and stabilizing it. The past 2 years, it's been stabilized. I will say I haven't had any major capex issues in this property. It's been good, like nothing major in terms of plumbing, nothing major in terms of HVAC. I did replace a lot of HVAC systems when I first renovated it, to be honest. So maybe that's why it has not as much capex repairs. But this property's been doing great. My gross rents are around 16 to 18K, depending on the vacancy. I think right now I have 3 vacants, which is pretty good. And I'm getting about 17K in rents. And I think my mortgage is around 2,000. After all expenses, I think this one cash flows around $5,000 to $6,000 a month, I would say on average. So this is kind of my LeBron James, my Stephen Curry of my real estate portfolio is what I call it. So this one hasn't really been hit as bad by 2025 in my recession video, there was a period where I think simultaneously 4 tenants leave. I think 2 we evicted and then 2 just left. And those 4 units we had to, they're vacant. We had to do rent readies, which costed money. And then that's when cash flow dipped on my 26 unit. But now I believe most of them are rented out. So the cash flow went up back to what it used to be. Um, so um, that's what I kind of did. But like I said, this one still cashes pretty well. So my 20 unit, this one was hit the hardest, I would say, by 2025 by the quote unquote recession, if we are in one. But this one had a lot of like that was hit simultaneously with like I think at one point it was 90% occupied, so 18 out of 20. And I had like 3 or 4 people leave simultaneously. I think 1 or 2 we evicted because for non-payment. Again, but then the units that were vacated were the ones I didn't renovate yet. So I had to spend like $5,000 per unit to renovate it. So that increased my expenses. And on top of that, I've been hit with like plumbing issues in this property. It's an older C-class property. So you get hit with CapEx, right? You have HVAC issues. You have 20 HVACs, 20 toilets, 20 kitchens, a lot of issues that's going to happen. So my joke was, I told my property manager, like, dude, the plumber makes more money than me on this deal, right? Like I, at best case, will cash flow, quote unquote, $1,500 a month in a good month. But if you have a plumbing issue, once a quarter, it just wipes off your cash flow. So really, it's just, you know, I call it a break-even deal, maybe slightly cash flow negative, right? Until I get past this hurdle of all this CapEx issues and these CapEx repairs. So obviously this one was hit a little bit as well in terms of in 2025. My property is in Huntsville, Alabama. So I just closed on one back in August, and that was rented out on a 3-year lease. This is my Lazy Bird properties. One property I'm going to close end of November, early December, hopefully, depending on my cash out refinance. So pretty much what I'm trying to do, if you guys haven't seen my Lazy Bird videos, is I buy all cash at a discount. And what I do is I do a cash out refinance after 3 months of seasoning. And then, I hope to pull up most of my money or leave a little money in the deal and use that money to go buy another house cash. So I think what's ended up happening with my deal, I bought all cash. I'm going to leave about $30,000 in the deal, which is not the end of the world, but it wasn't a perfect burr, right? I'm Asian, so I have to get 100% or else I'm a failure, right? That's a joke for you Asian Americans. But anyways, I'm leaving $30,000 in the deal. But because I'm leaving $30,000 in the deal, it's not as like scalable. Like every time I do buy a deal, I leave 30K in the deal. It's depleting my money, depleting my capital. So I'm probably going to just stop after the second deal until I replenish my reserves and my money and my capital, right? So that deal's been doing okay, but I just got it, so I can't really judge it. My other property in Huntsville, Alabama. It's an interesting story in this one. So the tenant told me the craziest story. Um, tenant told me the craziest story. So basically, they said that like it was a husband and a wife apparently, and they were looking to buy another property in Huntsville, Alabama, and they were gonna cancel the lease because they're under escrow on the property. But what happened was the husband apparently uh, stole the money and ran away, and they got a divorce. I'm not sure if they're actually legally married or not. And from there, um, the wife said that she had like no money or bank. She had like $5 to her name, something like that. I don't know if this is true or not. I'm just regurgitating what I was told. So they were behind on 2 months of rent. She gave kind of checks that bounced, and I didn't know it's a federal offense if you give a non-sufficient check. I'm not sure if that's a federal offense or I don't know, but that's what my property manager told me. But if a check bounces, it's a federal offense due to non-sufficient funds. So she gave us 2 checks that bounced. So she owes me about 2 months of rent, which is about $4,000. So we basically told her that, hey, please work with us on a payment plan with a good faith deposit. If not, we will have to send the district attorney after you. And what the district attorney does is they will typically garnish the wages. So let's just say you got paid $5,000 and you owe me $4,000 in rent. They're going to take some of your from your paycheck already to pay me back, essentially. And then it's going to show up in your credit score and ruin your credit and make it hard for you to rent moving forward. So that's ideally we don't want to do that because I don't want to ruin people's lives. It's not my goal or my intent. So I just said, let's work on a payment plan. So she reached out to kind of emergency rental assistance, and I think they're going to give her about they're going to pay for about half of what she owes me, I believe, and then whatever's remaining, we're going to work on a payment plan with her. So right now, I'm still working on um, getting that good faith deposit, and then once I do get that, I'm gonna basically work on a payment plan with her to hopefully get her caught up to speed. But if she doesn't move forward with the good faith deposit, then unfortunately we're gonna have to, move forward with the district attorney route to get the money. But the district attorney, if we involve them, they take about half the money. So if, let's say she owes me 5,000, and the district attorney garnishes the 5,000, district attorney office will take half, and then I get the other half. But it's better than nothing, right? So that's an interesting story on that one. So that's just kind of a high level of my 54 unit portfolio, and how it's done since I bought, it's how it's doing today. I tried to be super transparent on my channel about the reality of owning real estate. For me, when I was buying my real estate from 2017 to 2021, I consumed a lot of content about, real estate, and I felt like a lot of the content was not realistic. It was very rosy. And obviously, a lot of them are syndicators or raising private capital. So, they're going to paint a great picture of real estate. But, the longer I owned it, the more I realized that, wow, there's a lot that goes into owning real estate, right? And, we're saying it's great and doing well. Like when it's a bull market, it's amazing, right? Right now, I'd call the real estate market is stagnant and very still. So, it depends on like how uh, the market's doing, right? It's like in Oklahoma, the rental market has been flat, right? But what's happened is the rents aren't going up, they're not going down, they're staying the same, but expenses are going up, right? Property tax is going up, insurance is going up, repairs are going up. So if your rents are flat and your expenses are going up, your NOI is going down. If your NOI goes down in an apartment, your values are going down. On top of that, if your cap rates are going up and your NOI is going down, your values are dropping significantly, right? So that's why it's actually a great opportunity if you can find great apartment deals to buy at a discount, because there might be distressed apartment owners out there. So that's kind of my prediction, is like apartments are going to get hit. And then, maybe single family homes after that, or maybe single families will not be hit. It's really hard to gauge, but I think right now there's going to be pain with apartments. So that's why I'm really glad that for my 26 unit, like I didn't burr that property. I didn't do a cash out refinance on that property and pull out my down payment, pull out my renovation costs. Because if I did, I'd be hurting right now, right? So imagine like my current property, my 26 unit, the loan's $2,000 a month. It's at 350K. I probably could have easily pulled out close to $1 million on a new loan on that my 26 unit. So I would have pulled out my down payment of 60K. I would have put up my renovation cost of 300K plus some money on top of that. But my loan payment would probably be closer to $6,000-$7,000. If that was the case, I'd probably be cash flow neutral or a little bit positive cash flow. But I'd be more stressed if I did that. So I'm glad that I didn't continue to leverage as I scaled. And what's kind of funny too is like, as I went through my real estate journey, like I said this multiple times, but I felt like I had a gun to my head and someone was telling me, you have to get 100 units. And I got close to 90 units at one point when I had my mobile home park. Apparently, someone in this chat bought my mobile home park from me. But when I had my mobile home park, I had 90 units, sold that, dropped down to 50s, and right now I'm looking to sell probably my 20 unit. So it'd probably drop me down to the 30s whenever that happens. And I think kind of 30 units is kind of my sweet spot that I want to be at. I can't really imagine myself buying more real estate, just because I think up to a certain point, your quality of life doesn't necessarily improve the more real estate you own, but your quality of life will improve if you start taking debt off the table. So that's probably the route that I'm kind of leaning towards, unless like YouTube takes off and pays me millions for some reason. I can't really imagine myself like continuing to scale in real estate at a rapid pace that I went at, like from 2017 to 2021. So I can see myself slowing down, taking chips off the table, and kind of going into chill mode, if that makes sense. So I grinded for the past 8 years, and now I want to kind of enjoy the fruits of my labor. and all the effort, because it's a grind. It's a grind to buy real estate. Like it's a full-time job working in real estate, managing your real estate portfolio. On top of that, I work full-time as a pharmacist. So I feel like I'm working two jobs already. And I've been doing that for so long. And once you hit a multi-million dollar net worth, like whether you're worth 7 million, 8 million, 9 million, 10 million, honestly, your quality life won't change. But if I had a paid off primary residence, the only way for me to get that is if I sell a property to pay that off and have no more mortgage. That would improve my quality of life significantly, because now I don't have to take a job that's not stressful, right? Or I can be part-time, something like that. So, I need to remind myself that I went into real estate not to flex a number count, but purely for lifestyle freedom. That's why I did real estate. I want freedom to do what I want with who I want when I want, right? Like I don't mind working still, but if the job becomes too stressful, if my priorities change, if maybe I have kids in the future and don't want to work as much, it just gives me options in life. That's all I did real estate for. But I got lost in that grind of buying a lot of real estate that I forgot my original why. And it took me getting slapped in the face a few times to remember my original why, right? So I got slapped in the face with my mobile home park. Talked about that, lost $100,000 on that deal by selling it. And getting a little bit slapped in the face right now, given that it's tougher times, rents are stagnant, expenses are going up, insurance is going up. So, for me, it was kind of a wake up call to realize that, hey, it's time to take chips off the table and to optimize more towards lifestyle and to optimize more towards less stress, right? So I grinded for 8 years, and now it's time to kind of take a little bit easier and reap the benefits of all your hard work and all the seeds that I planted early on. Right. So that took me like 2 years to like change my mindset, because the mindset you need to scale is completely different than the mindset you need to kind of take chips off the table. Like it's a complete brain rewiring. And I struggle with it still, like to this day. Right. Um, and it's kind of been helpful, like networking with other real estate investors. Like I see real estate investors who are like a level ahead of me. And I'm just like, oh my God, I met a person who owns like 90 units of real estate, and they seem just as stressed as me and not as happy. And they still want to continue to scale and still want to continue to leverage. And I was just like, ooh, I don't want to necessarily do that. Right. I want to like take chips on the table and take it a little bit easier and be less stressed. Like that's the whole point. Like, I grinded for the past 8 years, high levels of stress to do real estate. And at what point is enough enough? And I felt like it kind of hit my enough, if that makes sense. So at this point, me buying more real estate actually hurts my quality of life versus improving my quality of life, right? Like going from 50 units to 90 units isn't going to improve my quality of life. If anything, it's going to stress me out more. I'd rather just optimize like what I have and make sure that it's a really strong, small, mighty portfolio, for lack of a better word. So, so depending on what phase you're at, first 8 years, I was grinding, scaling. Now I'm focused for the next 2 years on probably optimizing, taking chips off the table, taking debt off the table, right? So, that's kind of what it is. So overall, I would say if I were to summarize 2025 for real estate, I would say, I definitely did get slapped in the face more than usual. Expenses were a lot higher than typical. More plumbing issues, more HVAC issues, more tenant turnover. And rents haven't really gone up that much. So on my single family homes, I haven't been able to really raise the rents either. And insurance has gone up in pricing. That's why I switched a lot of my policies to steadily to save on insurance. And you have to constantly reassess your insurance policies to make sure you're getting the best rate, right? And on top of that, optimizing all my expenses. So, hey, like for example, like literally my property manager for my Huntsville property gave me a quote to repaint the interior of the house for $4,000. I was like, how's it cost $4,000 to repaint a 2,000 square foot house? It's $2 per square foot. And I just said, did you get 3 quotes? And then she was just like, no, I didn't. And I was just like, well, give me 3 quotes and then we can decide from there. And then she got me a quote that ended up being half the price. Albeit it could be a shitty job, right? If you pay half the price, it's a shitty job. But this is why you have to constantly push your property managers, because they get lazy. They just take the first option. They ask their friend or whoever. Maybe they want to hook up their friend to paint this property, $4,000. So I asked for 3 quotes, and I ended up using the quote that I thought was the best. So from that lesson, I learned that, reminded myself that you always have to get multiple quotes, number one. And number two is maybe I should become a painter. Because if I can get $4,000 to pay in a house, that's pretty good, right? Or become a plumber. Um, so, I've been really focused on the current properties that I have, less focused on scaling, more focused on optimizing and managing my expenses and managing my income and managing my property managers. Because if I'm focused on scaling, my mind is focused on the newest unit, not my current portfolio. So let's say if I were to buy another apartment complex, all my time, all my energy would be focused on renovating that apartment complex, stabilizing that apartment complex, and I would neglect my current portfolio and it would start to underperform, right? So that's what happened to me when I was scaling, that I was so focused on my newest property, that I wasn't focused on my other properties. Like I was so focused on my properties that I didn't realize I was like double paying, like for insurance. Like I was literally double paying for insurance, and I didn't even know that because I was so focused on renovating my mobile home park, renovating my 20 unit, renovating my 26 unit. So now that I'm not as distracted, I can really focus on my expenses, and my income and managing my property managers to the highest level. So, anyways, just wanted to give a quick 30-minute chat or rant about what it's like to own 54 units in 2025 to hopefully give you value. Now I'm gonna start looking at your questions, and yes, I'll even look at the rude questions. Um, so please start dropping your questions below, and I'll start answering them. Um, let's see. I got 30. You got 30 minutes to rant. Then I want you back to work. Those 30 jobs ain't gonna work themselves. Yeah. So, for me, my most recent popular video talks about how pharmacists are probably gonna be replaced by AI. As a pill counter, if you work in like Walgreens or CVS, we count pills. I work in the hospital, so we don't count pills per se, but we compound IV medications. But I do think the pharmacist profession is dying. Um, and the moment I got laid off in 2021 is the moment I scaled my real estate portfolio and realized that I don't want to depend on one stream of income to live my lifestyle. So that's why I went all in on real estate in 2021. That's when I scaled up significantly and bought 90 units of real estate at one point, and now I'm back at 50. But that's when I realized that I thought healthcare was a stable job, but after getting laid off, it was very eye-opening to me, and it made me realize that I needed to have additional streams of income, so I'm not dependent on my pharmacist salary. So my pharmacist salary allows me to fund my real estate. Like I don't have partners. I don't raise private capital. I've funded everything myself, through my own money, through W-2, and by leveraging my properties once they built up equity. So at one point I was extremely leveraged, but now I'm at 50% debt to equity. But I think at my peak, I was probably 80% debt, 20% equity. But as my real estate portfolio marinated over time, um, I basically um, increased my LTV, loan to value, to 50%. So like I said, right now I could literally sell a few properties and own the other properties free and clear if I wanted to, if I didn't want to play the real estate game anymore. Um, so question here, I'm in SoCal, midlife crisis. I traveled to all 48 states as a trucker, been successful, but regardless, life eventually toppled me. Also got no kids, lost parents, old age, a lot of homeless here. That sounds unfortunate. Um, for me, I feel like I kind of hit my midlife crisis when I was 33. That was 2023. And that's when I felt like I hit rock bottom. That's when I owned 90 units of real estate and I was getting slapped in the face in my mobile home park. I remember waking up feeling super depressed, super stressed out, super burnt out, didn't want to do anything. And it was kind of very eye-opening for me. I'm like, I thought that owning 90 units of real estate was like the dream, the goal. But like once I had it and I realized how shitty it was, because my properties were not doing great and the mobile park was terrible, um, and losing money every month, and it was super stressful, and dealing with problems 24/7. Um, like I realized that, wow, like why am I doing all this? I could just work my W-2 and just not be as stressed. But the truth is always somewhere in the middle, right? So for me now, I don't hate my W-2 job like crazy. I enjoy it. And then my real estate, I'm not as like crazy gun ho about it as I used to be. So like I'm kind of more even keel and somewhere in the middle now. But it took me hitting rock bottom to realize that, right? So in 2021, if I were to break down my timeline, when I got laid off from my pharmacist job, I hated pharmacy. And then in 2023, I I was from 21 to 23, I was super gun ho about real estate. But after I got slapped in the face in 2023, I'm not as gun ho about real estate, right? So I'm somewhere in the middle now, where I kind of like my job and I kind of like real estate. So the truth somewhere, always somewhere in the middle. So um, you know, Like even me, even despite all the success outwardly, like I was at rock bottom in 2023 when I was 33 years old. So, for me, I think midlife crises are going to happen. It's just a matter what do you learn from it and how do you get yourself up from it. So during that low period, I started my morning routine. I started meditating. I started exercising consistently again, and that really helped change my mindset by changing my body. Um, let's see here. For my ADU build, as I mentioned, so for my next ADU build, who did you end up going with? So I went with three. There's one that I'm probably going to use. Don't want to give the name just yet until I sign the contract. But I do have an idea of who I want to use. They do build a lot of ADUs. I think they do about 60 a year in Orange County. And based on my initial conversations and touring some of the ADUs that they've built, I like what they've done. Right. So, I want to use somebody who's built a lot of ADUs, not a homeless person. Right. As someone alluded to. So someone says they had a ADU based out of Fullerton, live in Laguna Hills, 550 square foot, cost about 190K for one bed, one bath. So I think the price to build is about $300 per square foot, all in. So what's interesting about the builders is when they give you ADU quotes, they just do the cost of construction, but there's all these permitting fees. If you want solar panels, if you want separate water meters, if you want separate electric, uh, it's just a lot of additional fees on top of that. And they just typically quote you the construction price. But, if you spend, let's say 200K to build a one bedroom, one bath in Laguna Hills, it can rent for probably, I would assume, at least $2,500 to $3,000. So it's a pretty good, that's above the 1% rule. So it's a pretty good cash and cash return, assuming you paid for the ADU cash. Um, so, that's why I'm really liking the ADU model right now. But my mind may change once I built it, my ADUs in my property in Orange County, and once I've experienced owning it. So, but right now it makes sense for me in terms of numbers, but we'll see um, how it goes. So let's see what here. I've had so many comments about why I don't sell all my properties and then dump them into Bitcoin. So I actually don't own that much Bitcoin right now. The most I own is FBTC, which is an index fund linked to Bitcoin. It's not even actually owning Bitcoin, it's just associated with Bitcoin. And I own maybe $8,000 worth of FBTC. I haven't really dived into, cryptocurrency because I don't really know it that well, if I'm being honest. But what I have thought about one day is if I get sick of real estate, let's say in like 20 years, I'm just sick of dealing with real estate. I'm sick of dealing with tenants and toilets. I could just sell my real estate, pay Uncle Sam, and then I would just dump all that money into the S&P 500 index fund and just live off that 4% roll for the rest of my life. And it's not too bad, right? Let's just say if I were to sell my real estate after paying taxes, after paying Uncle Sam, let's say I have $4 million left over, 4%, 4 million, that's 160K a year with a paid off house. I can live great with that, right? So that's always an option for me. And I have that card up my sleeve because, like I said, in 20 years, I may get sick of real estate and never want to touch it again. And I'll just sell it and dump it in SP 500 or something like that. Good to see that deals are being made in the chat. So question is, am I done with pharmacy? So I still work as a pharmacist. I still plan on working as a pharmacist. But like I said, kids and family planning is probably the next 5 years. So my situation may change where I can't imagine myself leaving pharmacy, but I can't imagine myself maybe being part-time or working on call. So I just maybe work 1 or 2 days a week. Or I could just not work of official position, but just pick up contracting gigs or where I can do a 3-month assignment and then be off for 3 months and pick up another 3-month assignment. So, I just want that flexibility to do that. Fortunately, there are a lot of opportunities like that in pharmacy where I can just kind of become like a traveler and, pick up 3 to 6 month gigs and then just be off for 3 to 6 months and travel. Right. Like um, what's kind of crazy is that like I went to Vietnam recently, which is I'm Vietnamese by origin, never been to Vietnam actually, my first time. And like you can literally get a hotel room 1 block from the beach for $30 a day, and it includes breakfast and basically free hotel cleaning once daily. So literally, that's up $1,000 or $900 a month to live 1 block from the beach, includes breakfast, and you can get food for the equivalent of like $1 to $2 US. So I could literally live in Vietnam, central Vietnam, by the ocean for 2,000 bucks a month and live pretty comfortably. But the healthcare is not as good in Vietnam, right? So if you get sick or something, healthcare is not going to be as good, and it's a developing country, right? So it's kind of opening to see that, like, wow, if I literally just, let's say, sold half my properties, own the other half free and clear, and have that cash flow, I could comfortably have a paid off house here in LA, live part time in LA, and live part time in Southeast Asia, where it's like 30 bucks a night for a hotel, and just stay there for like 1 or 2 months at a time, then go to your next destination. So that's what's kind of nice about traveling, and very eye opening. Like America, California, specifically LA, it's so expensive. Like literally, Uber rides like 30 bucks to go 6 miles, and you can live off 30 bucks a day in like Southeast Asia. So, quite eye opening in that. Do pharmacist landlords give free meds? So, most definitely, if you're one of my tenants, I do give free medications. I give free consultation as well. So I can help you with your drugs. I'm a legal drug dealer. Any little Stevens in the near future? So yeah, probably in the next 5 years. Imagine that I would have 2 kids ish, assuming things go according to plan. But yes, probably kid 1, kid 2 in the next 5 years, I would say. Another comment saying your recent video about low rents was good. I also hesitate to buy in low cost of living areas because maintenance costs are mostly fixed regardless of location. So, so what that person is alluding to is like, so my 20 unit apartment complex, for example, the rents are $500 to $600 per month, right? And if a refrigerator breaks in that unit, it's going to cost me $600 to fix that refrigerator or get a new refrigerator. So what I kind of learned was, regardless of my rents is $500, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, to replace that refrigerator, it's going to cost the same. So if a refrigerator cost me 1 month of rent, that's not so great. But if the refrigerator cost me 1/5 of my rent, that's better. So because of that strategy, I don't want to buy apartments anymore where the rents are below, I think $1,200 is my minimum now. So my 1,200 bucks a month is my minimum for rents. So I know that if I need a new fridge, that's half my rent for that month. So it's not as terrible, right? And like I said, maintenance costs are fixed regardless of location. So I'd rather have higher rents to make sure I can maintain that property and not become a slumlord. So because of that, would I buy my 20 unit again? Probably not. Would I buy my 26 unit again? Actually, I probably would because it's doing well. But if it wasn't doing well, if my 26 unit wasn't doing well, I wouldn't buy it again because the rents are only 700. So for me now, my minimum rents, I would say, is at least $1,000 a month per door, right? So that's my lesson I learned, but I didn't know that, right? I just thought, hey, as long as the numbers make sense, it's great. But moving forward, that's why I don't like low cost of living areas. That's why I'm buying in Huntsville, Alabama, because each property in Huntsville rents for $2K a month, right? So you have to make the rents worth the squeeze. So let's say if landlords paint over time doesn't look that great, that's true. So, I am a big fan of hiring a professional, but just making sure that you don't get ripped off, right? That's the key. Like, you want to make sure you hire professionals to do the work, but make sure you're not getting ripped off. I'm not going to do that landlord special where I'm shitty at painting. I want to make sure my properties look nice and presentable and professional. But like I said, just make sure you don't get ripped off. So question is, Raphael's keeping me accountable here. My time's up, so I need to go back to my job, my W-2 job. But it's Friday, right? So, I'm a bad W-2 employee, so I'll take an extra long break. If I had to leave California, where would I move? So this was a question I have actually thought about. So my criteria, if I were to move, and the TLDR is I would consider Vegas area because I need to be near international airport that goes to most locations because I like to travel. And I need to be near an Asian supermarket like 99 Ranch, H Mart, something like that. And I need to be near a Costco. And I need to be around Asian food. So that's my criteria. So right now, if I were to leave California, it would probably be in Vegas, where I can get a house for $500,000, own it free and clear, and then spend half my time there and half my time in, Southeast Asia, somewhere like that. I still could do that in LA because my plan is to pay off my house I'm living in right now. And then, whenever I decide to not work as a pharmacist full time, I probably would split my time between LA as well as living overseas potentially. So if I were to stay in the States, I'd probably be in LA. Maybe I'd go back to the Bay Area where my family is, or if I were to go out of California, maybe I would do Nevada, because it meets my criteria. Um, for liability purposes, um, do each of your properties have an LLC? So I kind of went LLC crazy. I have a full video breaking down asset protection. So you can literally search asset protection in my YouTube channel and you'll find my detailed video where I actually draw it out. But I basically have a living trust, which owns my holding company. And my holding company owns three LLCs, and those three LLCs will then own all my rental properties, right? So I try to separate my rental properties out as much as possible, but also not going too crazy where I have too many LLCs, because in California, for every LLC that I own, I have to pay $800 a year to the franchise tax board. So I'm trying to balance asset protection, but not going too crazy with LLCs. But in some states, like Texas or Oklahoma, you can have as many LLCs as you want. If that was the case, and there's no additional charge, each property would have its own LLC, right? But the general rule of thumb that I live by is 250K of equity per LLC at least. But like I said, if I was living in Texas or Oklahoma where I can get LLCs for no cost or low cost and didn't have to pay the franchise tax board $800 a month or a year, I probably would have more LLCs. But because I'm in California and I have this cost of owning an LLC, I don't go too crazy. But my structure is trust, owning a holding company. A holding company owns my LLCs, which then owns my real estate. So most of my properties are in LLCs currently, but I know a lot of investors, they're not big fans of LLCs in California. Like if you don't own an LLC, the minimum thing you need is an umbrella insurance policy, right? Like I know people who own 10 rentals in California, no LLCs. Because if you don't have an LLC and it's under your name, insurance is cheaper. And on top of that, um, um, umbrella insurance policies are cheap too. It's only like I think $1,000 a year to get like a $10 million umbrella policy for everything, and covers your properties and covers you and covers your car insurance. So that's not a bad option too. Um, whiskey. I respect the hustle, but having been a landlord of 8 units in New York, dealing with tenants and the ROI just wasn't worth it. So I stopped, just went to index funds and do hard money lending. So yeah, it's perfectly fine to go into real estate, realize it's not for you, sell it all, and dump into something more passive like index funds or hard money lending. I may do that too. I might one day just sell my real estate if I'm sick of it, dump into the SP 500 index fund and do hard money lending too, because I know real estate, right? Where I could, charge a 1 to 3% origination fee and then charge a 12% interest rate on my money. Like that's easy, right? So, I may go down that route too. I don't know. Like right now, real estate makes sense for me, but in 20 years, it may not make sense. And also whiskey's adding, I have 3 main businesses that I operate that are mostly remote. Government contracting, tax firm, software company specializing in pensions, but this was all a 15 to 20-year plan. So, once again, like if you make more money through your 3 main businesses, like why even spend your time and energy in real estate, right? Unless you're doing it for tax purposes. But like you said, like if I was making like millions from YouTube, like I would put all my energy into YouTube because that's the best ROI of my time, versus like real estate. If I'm not making as much compared to YouTube or making less from real estate than YouTube, then obviously YouTube's better. But right now I make the most from my W-2 and from my real estate. YouTube's very little, but who knows? One day YouTube may make me more, at which point I may not be as motivated to buy real estate. That's what's happening to Graham Stephan. He makes way more money from YouTube now. That's why he's selling his real estate now, because it's just not worth the headache for him. So you have to constantly reassess your situation, right? Like maybe it makes sense now, but if I'm making millions from YouTube, maybe real estate doesn't make sense anymore, right? So it's always about reassessing your situation. So someone said, I had a feeling you'd say Vegas. You're just like tech lead. So, what's his title? I think he says as a millionaire. I should be as a landlord or as an evil landlord. Just have the same thumbnails and titles. Maybe my channel will get as big as his. So that's a good suggestion. Yes, Nevada has less taxes, so there's no state tax. It's a little cheaper there, but it is hot. It is hot in Vegas. So question is, what did you buy from Lennar? So I love this question. So my house I'm in right now, primary residence, I bought from Lennar, and I bought two in Huntsville, Alabama through Lennar in the same community. They're 4 bedroom, 2 bath, 2,100 square feet, single family homes in Huntsville, Alabama. I bought them for about 260K cash, and I'm doing my lazy burr strategy. So I'm buying it cash, do a cash out refinance, pull out that money, use that money to buy the next one in cash, right? So I am leveraged. And I'm renting it out for about $2,100 each. One I just rented out on a 3-year lease for $2,150. The other one, I'm closing on it end of this month or early December. But those are the properties I like with Lennar. But what I love about Lennar, and sorry for sidetracking here, Lennar does a lot of research on where they want to build. So they're building in areas where there's progress. So in Huntsville, Alabama, Space Command's coming there. There's a lot of job growth there. There's population growth there. It's in great school districts. It's very affordable to live there in Alabama. And the median income in Huntsville, Alabama is 120K, which is, I think, double the average of Alabama in general. So it's a great area. So that's why Lennar is investing a lot of money in building a lot of communities in northern Alabama area. So because of that, that's why I'm buying from Lennar specifically. And when you buy new construction, there's no bidding war. It's first come, first serve. You get 1 year warranty on the inside. You have a 5-year warranty on the exterior, and you have a 10-year warranty on like the major issues like HVAC, roof, or whatever. So you get warranties, which is really nice. And like literally selling new construction Lennar is so easy that all my realtor did was kick me over to the Lennar realtor, and the Lennar realtor did all the work. So that actually inspired me. That like I've been saying in multiple videos that I want to become a real estate broker, but the part of me is like I'm kind of lazy. It's a lot of work to become a good realtor because you're dealing with a lot of people who are wishy-washy, who you have to explain things to, and I don't like doing that. Right? I'd rather spend my time doing something else. But maybe I could be a realtor who specializes in selling new construction, specifically selling Lennar homes. Because all I have to do is just connect you with a Lennar agent, and the Lennar agent does everything else for me. That's super passive. So, like, if I were to do that, it's inspiring me to become a real estate broker. Um, so I'll probably start studying for it maybe early December or start of 2026 to become a real estate broker. Just skip being a realtor, go straight to being a broker. And then I'm going to specialize in just selling new construction, Lennar homes to real estate investors. So if you want to use me in the future, let me know. Right. But like I said, it's super easy to sell new construction. I don't do anything. I just refer them to the Lennar realtor, and the Lennar realtor takes care of everything else. So, it's a super passive model in that sense. So that's all the questions that I see here. If you have a last minute question, I want to stop here at the hour. But if not, kind of want to end with my parting thoughts on investing in real estate in 2025. So the theme of 2025 is to survive. Survive 2025. So what am I doing to survive 2025? Number one, I didn't quit my W-2 job. I still work my W-2 job, right? Based on my net worth, based on the 4% rule, if I sell a lot of real estate, I could quit my W-2 today if I want to, but not doing that just yet, right? So I still work a W-2, so I have multiple streams of income, right? So I have income from my W-2, I have income from my real estate, and I have income from YouTube. Not that much, but a little bit. And so I still want to keep active income streams, not live purely off passive income just yet. So I still work at W-2, right? The next thing too is in 2025, I lowered my personal expenses. I'm not, living as lavishly as before. I'm not like buying excessive things I don't need, right? I have enough. And when I buy things, I do make sure to buy it on sale or buy it on clearance or shop around, right? And I'm credit card turning to cover a lot of my flights, a lot of my hotels, a lot of my travel. So, I am managing my expenses, my personal expenses very cognizantly, right? I'm not saying I'm depriving myself. I still go out and have fun. But if I go to a concert, for example, am I buying VIP tickets front row? No, I'm probably in the back. But I'm still enjoying that experience, but maybe not as much, right? Compared to being in the front. So, I am managing my expenses. Another thing I'm doing is I'm managing my expenses on my real estate portfolio. Once again, I changed 3 of my insurance policies over to steadily, and I saved about on average $500 each property. So that's a $1,500 a year in savings that I put in my pocket to save as my reserves to basically cover a rainy day, right? Um, that's another thing that I'm doing. Another thing I'm doing is I'm making sure I have lines of credits lined up, which I do. So I have lines of credits against my stock portfolio for a rainy day fund in case I need to tap into that. I'm trying to build up my cash reserves this year. And as a result, I haven't been investing as much into 401k. I haven't been max funding my life insurance. I've just been trying to increase my savings in my bank account to have more reserves because I know maybe tenants will leave. Maybe I will have um, major plumbing issues or need to replace a roof. So I'm trying to increase my reserves as well and increase my lines of credits. On top of that, I've been hounding my property managers a little bit more than usual. I used to touch base with them once a month, but now I'm touching base with them probably every 2 weeks now because I want to make sure I'm on top of them. They know I'm watching them so that they'll manage my property well. That's something that I haven't been doing as diligently, but I went from once a month to every 2 weeks now. So they know I'm watching them and I'm watching them closely. Another thing that I'm doing is that I'm listing my 20 unit off market right now to see if anyone is interested in buying it. So I am considering selling that 20 unit for the right price. If I don't get the right price, I'm okay just holding it. But if I do sell it, what I would do is I would use that money to build my ADUs and pay for those ADUs all cash and not use a line of credit. So I would sell a property, deleverage, and use that money to go build my ADUs, which then would cash flow significantly, right? So in my mind, if I can trade my 20 unit into two ADUs, owned free and clear, that cash flow, $6,000 a month, that's a no-brainer move. So I want to do that. And um, probably not gonna do it just yet this year, but like I said, I'm probably gonna have to sell one of my first single family homes I bought to then use that to pay off my primary. So, I'm not doing that move yet. I'm probably gonna do that move once I'm looking to step away from full-time pharmacist work. And another thing that I'm doing in 2025 is networking. I've been networking with more real estate investors so that I can learn what they're doing during these rough times. Like all real estate investors who own real estate are getting slapped in the face right now. If they're not telling you that, they're hiding it, or they own the property, or they own their portfolio free and clear. That's the only people not getting slapped in the face right now. If you have any sort of leverage on your portfolio, you're getting slapped in the face between expenses and tenants not paying. Right? Everyone's going through that. So that's why I'm networking with other investors to learn their strategies, and also as a coping mechanism. Right? It gets very lonely when you own a lot of real estate, and you want to see what other people are doing. Like, how are you saving money? Like, oh, you use steadily to save on your insurance, I'll use it too. Maybe I can save some money. Oh, like this is what you did to save money. Maybe you can refinance some of your loans that are like at a 6.5% and drop it down to 5%. So just learning about different loan products and networking has been really key for me. So that's what's really nice about doing all that. So anyways, this is the end of the stream. Thank you so much for chatting and putting your comments and being engaged. Let me know what questions you have, what videos you want me to do moving forward. But I want to do more live streams moving forward. If you want to join my school community, click on my link below. There's a free trial. I do Q&As with the community if you want to ask me questions directly face to face. Check out the school community. If you want coaching, you want mentorship, click on my link tree. It has all the links there. If you want a steadily landlord insurance quote for free, takes 3 minutes. Click on my link tree as well. Put in the address and they'll give you a quote within 24 hours to see if you can save money or maybe your current policy is good. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for supporting me up to 10K. Now I want to strive towards 20K. So please help me get there. And hope to see you next one. Thank you so much and have a good Friday evening. Peace.